While Japan still has the third biggest economy in the world, it definitely won't keep its spot on the podium much longer. Until the 1990s, Japan's economy was one of the most prosperous ones in the world, but since then their economy stopped making any good gains. Why? And is there reason for hope? Stick around until the end of the video to find out. In today's video, we'll discuss why Japan stopped growing in the last 20 years. But before that, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that notification bell to stay notified. Let's head into it. Cycles can be observed in economies based on free markets. Economic cycles are characterized by alternating periods of economic growth and decline, which can be tracked through analysis of a country's gross domestic product. There is a wide range of possible durations for economic cycles. According to the conventional definition, a recession is defined as a period of falling gross domestic product that lasts for 2 or more consecutive quarters. There are also economic depressions, which are prolonged times of economic contraction, like the Great Depression that occurred in the 1930s. One example of an economic depression is the Great Depression. The years 1991 to 2001 were referred to as Japan's lost decade, since the country's economy did not grow significantly during that time and prices actually went down. Although Japan's economy eventually emerged from this slump, it did so at a considerably more glacial pace than the economies of other industrialized nations. During this time period, the economy of Japan was hit hard by both a shortage of credit and a stagnation of available liquid assets. In the 1980s, the economy of Japan was the envy of the world because it grew at an average annual rate of 3.89%, whereas the economy of the United States grew at a rate of 3.07% during the same decade. In spite of this, Japan's economy continued to struggle throughout the 1990s. The equities and real estate booms that had been building up in Japan began to deflate in the fall of 1989. Between the end of 1989 and the beginning of August 1992, equity prices experienced a precipitous decline of 60%, while land values suffered a precipitous decline of 70% by the year 2001. As a consequence of this, the gross domestic product of the Japanese economy expanded at a rate of only 1.14% per year from 1991 to 2003, which was significantly lower than that of other developed nations. It is a widely held belief that Japan's central bank, the Bank of Japan, committed a number of errors that may have contributed to the severity of the economic fog caused by the bursting of the equity and real estate bubbles, as well as lengthened their duration. For instance, monetary policy was inconsistent. There was anxiety over a rise in prices, sometimes known as inflation, as well as a rise in asset prices. At the end of the 1980s, the Bank of Japan tightened its control over the money supply, a move that may have been a contributing factor in the bursting of the equities bubble. The Bank of Japan continued to hike interest rates despite the decline in equity values because it remained concerned about the continuous appreciation of real estate values. However, although higher interest rates were a factor in the halting of the increase in land values, they were also a contributing factor in the general economy entering a downward cycle. In 1991, when both equity and land prices were falling, the Bank of Japan made a significant course correction and began cutting interest rates. However, it was too late. A liquidity trap had already been set up, and a credit crunch was already in the process of developing. By the way, did you know about Japan's lost decade? Let us know in the comment section down below. The country of Japan fell victim to a really perilous trap known as a liquidity trap. In a general sense, it refers to a situation in the economy in which consumers and investors hoard cash, either in the form of cash sitting in short-term accounts or actual cash on hand. In a situation known as a liquidity trap, historically low interest rates become ineffectual as a tool of monetary policy. People and investors don't spend any money or put any money into investments. They assume that products and services will be sold at lower prices the following day, so they postpone consumption in the hope that they will make a higher return by doing nothing with their money rather than investing it. The discount rate at the Bank of Japan was 0.5% during the majority of the decade of the 1990s. Nonetheless, it was not successful in stimulating the Japanese economy because deflation remained. It is possible to escape a liquidity trap through the deployment of both fiscal and monetary policies, but in order to do so, people and companies need to demonstrate a willingness to spend and invest. The use of fiscal policy is one method of getting people to comply with the request. The decrease of tax rates, the issue of tax rebates, and increased public expenditure are all ways that governments are able to deliver money directly to consumers. Japan attempted a number of different fiscal policy initiatives in an effort to free itself from its liquidity trap. On the other hand, there is a widespread consensus that the implementation of these policies was inadequate, with funds being frittered away on ineffective public works projects and allocated to failed firms. The vast majority of economists are of the opinion that money must be distributed effectively in order for fiscal stimulus policy to be effective. To put it another way, money should be put directly into the hands of customers so that the market can determine where it should be spent and invested. Also, make sure to write your thoughts on Japan's economic misery in the comment section. Instead of focusing on nominal interest rates, one additional strategy for escaping the liquidity trap is to reinflate the economy by an increase in the actual amount of money. This can be accomplished by raising the money supply. By purchasing government bonds through open market operations, a central bank is able to pump money into an economy without taking into consideration a specified target interest rate. This occurs when a central bank buys a bond, at which point it effectively trades the bond for cash, which results in a rise in the amount of money in circulation. This practice is often referred to as monetizing debt. The Bank of Japan switched its focus from interest rates to money supply targeting in 2001, which was a move that ultimately assisted in moderating deflation and stimulating economic development. But when a central bank injects money into the financial system, banks are left with more money on hand. However, they must also be willing to lend out that money. This is because banks are the only ones who can access the money. This was Japan's second major issue, a shortage of credit. After discussing all these problems, one might ask, is there any hope left for Japan's economic future? Stick around the end of the video to find out. During the 1990s, Japan experienced a severe shortage of credit, but the country's banks were sluggish to recognize their losses. Despite the fact that public money was made available to banks in order for them to restructure their balance sheets, the banks chose not to do so due to the fear of the stigma that would be associated with reporting long-concealed losses, as well as the fear of losing control to foreign investors. Unfortunately, reinflating an economy is not an easy task, especially in the event that financial institutions are unable or unwilling to lend money. Milton Friedman, a prominent American economist, proposed that a liquidity trap could be avoided if money were given directly to individuals to spend, circumventing the financial middlemen that are often involved in such transactions. Because of the belief that a central bank might distribute money by dropping it from a helicopter, this method is sometimes referred to as helicopter money. And now, on top of everything else, Japan has to fight the economic troubles that the COVID outbreak imposed into the country's economy. This is in addition to everything else. There is one major topic that almost no one talks about, despite the fact that almost everyone is aware of it: demographics. Japan has been struggling with this social and economic issue for a long time. In Japan, the birth rate has been in steady decline since the 1970s. This indicates that a lower proportion of young people are entering the labor force, which in turn leads to a reduction in the productive potential of the nation. An extremely unfavorable dependency ratio is produced when there are not enough young people in a population and there are also unusually long lifespans. This is the proportion of people who contribute to the Social Security fund of the country to the total number of retired individuals who draw benefits from it. As a direct consequence of this, the Social Security fund consistently runs deficits, which the Japanese government is required to cover with funds from the general budget. For example, the initial estimate for the shortfall in the Social Security fund was 480 billion yen, but the fiscal budget for the year 2022 allocated 660 billion yen to make up for the shortfall in the fund. This shortfall is compensated by issuing debt, and at the present time, Japan's national debt stands at 266% of GDP, which is the highest ratio in the developed world. However, finding solutions to the demographic challenges we face is not something that can be done fast or easily. It is necessary to make fundamental adjustments to the Japanese immigration system and economic structure. In general, as the new year begins, Japan is dealing with problems that are both cyclical and structural in nature. Its economy is still struggling to recover from the global crisis, which is being hampered by cyclical issues such as bottlenecks in global supply chains and frictions in labor markets. These challenges continue to put downward pressure on the economy. The three-decade-long economic slowdown that began in 1990 when multiple asset bubbles burst in a decline in the birth rate, which creates labor shortages and an unfavorable dependency ratio, is associated with structural challenges. These challenges are caused by the combination of these two factors. What do you think about Japan's economic hardships? Do you think they can recover from it soon? Let us know in the comment section. This brings us to the end of today's video. I hope you had fun watching it. Give us a like if you did and subscribe to our channel to stay updated. Also, activate the bell to make sure you definitely won't miss any of our future videos. Enjoy your day and I'll see you in the next video.